Okay, welcome back. Thank you guys so much for coming in today. I wanted to check in with you guys. Um, I know you've been taking the VPCQ assessment. Do either of you guys have any thoughts about that? Any about the questions? Anything that came up for you?
Yeah, I could go first. I don't know, just like talking
Okay.
about everything and my symptoms that I've been having. I've been noticing like in certain ways, maybe the assessment made me more conscious. Like there was like more things involved to be asked about my symptoms and how that's been affecting the negative thoughts I've been having about myself. And I don't know. There are times like I do feel like I go down the rabbit hole a little bit, not thinking that I'm good enough for my partner if we cannot have penetrative sex, or thoughts about myself being a woman, like if things, thinking about like my body not functioning the way that maybe it should be for other women. Those were just some questions that
Mm,
really stood out to me, and kind of made me question some things that I just didn't really like think about. So I don't want to say anything is bad, but at the same time, I feel like I may be more aware that there might be more like negative things popping up for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how about for you, Brian?
Yeah, so there were a few things, thoughts on like not applicable to very like strongly that I was resonating with too, like um for my partner and for just our relationship and our sexual intimacy. One of the things I know that we have shared together is um like whether we're a good or a poor partner when penetration is either successful or when it fails. Um, on that same note, is even if penetration is not successful, like, am I still a good sexual partner? Am I pleasing my partner? Um, all the way around, I think the questions were stirring up some thoughts around our maybe view of self and view of each other.
Yeah, so it seems like for both of you, going through the assessment identified maybe some thoughts that you were having that you didn't really realize that you were having before, like they were way kind of there in the background, or feelings, or feelings that you hadn't expressed necessarily to one another. And I'm reminded of that saying, like, you have to name it to tame it. So understanding that some of these thoughts or feelings are occurring is really helpful, and then being able to address them. Yeah. So,
yeah.
oh, guys, yeah, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask for each one of you, like, what do you, when these thoughts come up for you, now that you're noticing them more, what happens for you? What do you do with them?
I know, speaking for myself, I'm an overthinker like in general. So when these thoughts happen, it really builds up, and then I just feel really like my self-esteem becomes extremely low. Like I just feel like
Mm,
undesirable, not being able to like, not to say like I don't feel like my partner is desirable, but at the same time, like I'm so wrapped up in my own like subconscious that I just feel like I kind of shut down. It really starts to take a toll on like my body as well.
Yeah, and for me, um, and even just hearing my partner say that, there's a lot of anxiety that comes up, and I start to, I think we both go into this place of thought where we're becoming anxious. Is this pain worth it, or will this feel good? Um, if there wasn't pain, would we still enjoy this together? Um,
mm,
I think there's a lot of anticipation that comes with talking about this more. Also, will it get worse? Like we are working towards making this more enjoyable for both of us. So I think if I'm speaking for myself, but maybe my partner also, like as we work on these exercises and thoughts, even, I definitely, again, speaking for myself and maybe my partner, she's shaking her head. Yeah, like as we work on this, will it get better? Will it be less unpleasant and pleasurable and connect us more?
Of anxiety, anticipation, and kind of overthinking, kind of these spiraling thoughts, these looping thoughts, and worry also. I wanted to ask if you two were aware of the role of anxiety, the role that anxiety plays in creating much muscle tension, and especially around the GPPPD.
Yeah, I feel like the more we've talked about it in like other sessions, that's become, I didn't realize like how my body would like even the thought of having penetrative sex together, like I get super like anxious, my whole body like really does tense up. And so it made sense to like understand like that is why I'm also maybe experiencing that uncomfortability is because I'm already tense and having this, experience in my body, like it has caused that to tense down there. So yeah, I do feel like it's brought me more awareness to that, where before I just didn't even really connect the two together. So it's been kind of helpful, at least knowing that that contributes to that.
Yeah, that that makes sense, and I'm glad that that is helpful because it's so true. They perpetuates on each other, right? It's like the more pain, the more anxiety, and then the more pain. So, what has it been like for you, Brian, to learn about this connection?
Um, I think as we're 5 sessions and going, having that understanding that the more we think about it, as you highlighted, does cause your body to tense up. And for me, it's helped me as a spouse to understand that Mary is not necessarily saying no to me, her body is saying no, if that makes sense.
Doing, Brian, is something I was going to suggest for us to do next, which is taking a negative thought related to the situation. So the negative thought could have been for you, like, Mary is saying no to me, and reframing it. You said, Mary is not saying no to me. Mary's body is having a visceral reaction. Mary's body is saying no. And there's a very different energy. So, what I would like for us to do, for each one of you to do, is kind of think of a thought that comes up for you almost automatically related to this problem that you share. Um, if you can think of what the thought is, the unhelpful kind of automatic thought that happens that starts the spinning or contributes to the spiralization of negative thinking. Can you think of one?
For me, I get like a negative thing I think about often is like eventually will Brian get tired of this and maybe leave me for another woman that doesn't have this issue?
Mm-hmm. So the question, the thought is really kind of a question, but it's phrased as a question, but it's really what I'm hearing, a worry that Brian is going to leave you for another woman um, who doesn't experience pain
Hmm.
um, with penetration.
Yes.
And I want to ask you if you have any evidence for that being true.
No. I mean, at the moment, I think that this has brought us closer. I think that Brian's been more understanding than I maybe thought he would be. And I know him being here with me means a lot too. So I don't think of anything that actually supports what I worry about.
Mhm.
Mm.
Okay, and then Brian, I want to ask you, is Mary correct in her thinking that there's no evidence, there's no chance that you would leave her for another woman who doesn't experience pain?
Yeah, as we are working through this therapy, I know that just because we don't have successful penetration or reach orgasm, it doesn't reflect on either of us as a partner or sexual partner. Um, I think prior to therapy, I used to have thoughts like, um, well, why do I not make you feel secure to have intercourse with me, or kind of around that line. And I'm really realizing that, um, really through this therapy, as we talk, that it's more of a body response and kind of an maybe anxious response. And I don't think that we
Mm.
were going through the anxiety well, um, trying to do this on our own.
Mhm. Right. And so I think, to help mitigate that anxiety or kind of stop it in its tracks, we need to identify when this thought is happening, like the worry about Brian leaving you, Mary. And instead of, we call it replacement thoughts in CBT. So we have the negative thought, which is Brian's going to leave me for another woman if I don't figure this out, which creates a lot of anxiety. And we know, you said, that there's no evidence for that. We know that it's not helpful. It just creates more anxiety. Um, is there something else that is more true for you and Brian that you can use as a replacement thought every time that negative thought comes up?
Uh, I think I do see a lot of the love Brian gives me. Although, yeah, like his security and love that he gives me is something I think counteracts those thoughts. Because if you love someone and you want to make them feel secure, there shouldn't be a reason to ever want to leave them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love that. And how does that make you feel, having that thought?
It was a lot better. I feel like it's interesting though, because it's like a future thought, like a future anxiety I have. So although I feel very like safe and secure in this moment, it's just interesting that it's more like a future thought. It's not like a current thing I have, but it does feel a lot better to have this thought than worry about him potentially like leaving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So a replacement thought for you might look like, um, anytime you have this thought of Brian's going to leave me, maybe instead you can reframe it, recorrect the direction of this thinking process, and think to yourself how much Brian has stood by you. And Brian even said that it has brought the two of you closer, more intimate, having deeper conversations, sharing more vulnerably, right? So maybe a replacement thought could be, Brian and I have gotten closer
Mm.
through this emotional intimacy than than I could have ever imagined. Does that feel like a more true statement for you?
It does. Yeah.
Right. And so when these anxious thoughts for both of you come up, I wonder if we can use that reframe, that replacement thought, and allow that relaxation to kind of wash over you, to let that anxiety kind of, fade away, to help bridge a connection between you that goes beyond penetration.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, before we started seeing you guys, I think we were really stuck in a cycle of shame and just actually going away from each other and thinking like we'll never have sex, we'll never enjoy this, it's just never going to happen. And in working with you, I just think, working with you both, we realize there's still anxiety, but we know that we are taking steps forward and that this is a treatable problem. And yeah, working together as best we can where we are now.